Hi, Eric Lynn Ask here with TMC. We're here at Cloud Expo in New York, and I'm talking now with cloud technology partners Mike Kavis and Casey Clark. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, yes.
So, a lot of exciting things as you walk around and see some of the exciting developments around cloud. Maybe a good place to start is what are you seeing in terms of the latest developments and the latest things that people are leveraging cloud for?
Well, certainly there's a lot more interest in the public cloud than we were seeing a year or two ago in our practice. A lot of companies who a year ago were very worried about security or compliance or scalability are now saying, well, how much of my workload can I actually move out to Amazon or to Azure, or into SoftLayer? So the acceptance of cloud, particularly public cloud as a viable platform for enterprise workloads is certainly different. And the tools are starting to catch up to that. Mm-hmm.
And we're also seeing a lot of companies trying to change their operating model. Now they're trying to deliver, SaaS type services, which can be transformational within companies. So we get to help a lot of companies in that transition, which has been pretty interesting and fun.
What's driving that change, or what's driving that momentum towards public cloud?
Well, it's certainly cost in many cases, but more than that, we're seeing the agility. The fact that you don't have to wait 3 months to provision a virtual machine, that whatever amount of storage you need for adding big data into your applications is there on demand. Simply I can get it now rather than waiting for my data center to be provisioned with the hardware that you need.
Does that mean that there are security issues that have been addressed and that people are more conscious of security and are confident that those security questions have been answered appropriately?
Well, all of security is never always addressed, but people are becoming more comfortable with the public cloud. And the reality is that these public cloud vendors, their core competency, one of their core competencies is security. And the investments that they put in security are usually way more than any company can invest in within themselves. And also, like 80% of all breaches are internal related anyway. So I think people are coming to grips that you can build highly secure systems in the public cloud, but it takes more than just a provider to provide that. You have to build that with your apps yourself.
So is that growth in adoption of public cloud utilization having a likewise negative effect on adoption of private cloud or utilization of private cloud?
Well, a lot of companies, particularly major Fortune 500 ones, are finding out that it's very expensive to build their own private cloud. There are VMware tools out there. There are various other approaches. OpenStack is out there, but it's a lot of work. And rather than having their application teams wait for that, public cloud is an option they can have now. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would add to that what we're seeing a lot of is what they're calling a hybrid cloud. So, there are some workloads they just refuse for security and compliance reasons to move, but what they're finding, especially after a couple years of investing in private cloud, is that, we can move a lot faster for those workloads that we're comfortable with living outside our firewall. So we're seeing a lot of hybrid activity, but a lot more workloads over time will start moving public.
Well, and there are some workloads that are just not well suited for the public cloud. And, you can tune an application such as a trading system, something that needs lower latency where the users need to be right there. You can tune it much better in your own data centers than you could out on the public cloud with the virtualized resources.
So there's obviously a number of questions that have been answered and are increasing in greater adoption of cloud services. What are the questions that are still being asked that you're seeing out there?
One of the really tough problems out there is a problem called data gravity. If you have all of your data together into the data centers, if that data needs to be shared by more than one application, or there's tight integration between different applications, that works pretty well. You're on a local area network, it's pretty fast to move things or talk. You can even share the database or share the file system. You move that out to the cloud and you're dealing with a master data management problem, data lifecycle management problem, or just sheerly the amount of network bandwidth it takes to transfer that data. We don't have great solutions for that yet. We're getting there, but it's still a very tough problem to solve.
Yeah, one of the other challenges is there needs to be a shift in how you build architectures as you go out to the cloud, and a lot of companies are struggling with that because they're used to building things for a data center for hardware that's always there and highly available, and now you're moving to the cloud where compute resources are disposable and they go away, and it requires a different architecture to build that, and that's a culture change, that's a design change, it's system thinking change. So a lot of companies struggle with that. They lift and shift and go to the cloud, and they don't get all the benefits of the cloud. And then so how do we think differently? How do we design differently going forward?
So, is there a lack of understanding or a misunderstanding of how to achieve those benefits, or what the benefits might even be?
Yeah, I think it's a learning curve thing. Like when anything new comes, you have to figure out how to do things differently. So I think people understand, for the most part, what the benefits of the cloud are, but a lot of them don't yet quite grasp how you take advantage of those.
So is that a question of understanding how to make that transition or that migration?
Well, there are both process issues as well as technology issues involved there. On the process side, how do you manage these clouds operationally? The tools are still fairly new. Many of the tools, like monitoring tools or application performance management or capacity management, were designed for the internal data center and not the distributed nature of the cloud. On the technology side, the application architectures weren't designed to scale out. They weren't designed to be able to accept resources or be able to give them up very easily. They were designed to be very close in proximity to their databases, with the chatting nature. And oftentimes we found clients that have done a lift and shift into the public cloud, and then they get the cloud hangover or cloud migration debt, where they realize that they have to change a lot more of their application in order for it to be as resilient, as scalable, as performant as they really need to have. So the second generation application architecture in the cloud is something that we're going through with a lot of early adopters right now.
But it seems to me like the progress that we've talked about is real, because if I go back 18 months or 2 years, the conversation was almost entirely around people are afraid of cloud because of security. They don't trust it. They don't trust that it's secure. Now we're talking about all sorts of different issues, but security isn't necessarily at the top of the list. Not that it's not important. It's just that people are a little more comfortable with it.
It's still a concern in a lot of organizations, and there are a lot of customers. A lot of companies are delivering software in the cloud, and some customers refuse to use it because there's still that perception, but it's not anywhere near the fear and the FUD that used to be around a couple years ago. So, enterprises the last 18, 24 months have been looking at public cloud like never before. I mean, a lot of our business now is public cloud, and I would say that wasn't the case a couple years ago. And a lot of people are having success, and what we're finding is there's a maturing process now. So a lot of people ran to the cloud, they got stuff in there, they accomplished some goals, but they have issues. They have, like, how do you operate in this model? How do you monitor? How do you log this stuff? And they're starting to get better at it, but it's a learning curve. It's just like any other new technology. You don't hit a home run right out of the gates.
It takes a few iterations. There's also a lot of independent software vendors out there who are being pushed by their clients to provide SaaS solutions. And if anything, the hill that they have to climb is much worse than most enterprises have to do with moving workloads to the cloud. Oftentimes they're trying to support their applications on multiple clouds, both clouds that are hosted by their clients as well as, hosted private clouds and say a Savvis or, a Rackspace or fully public clouds. And supporting all of those, supporting multi-tenant, going from being a software license provider with simple technical support to you're a service provider having to make SLAs and deal with client problems. I mean, that's a huge, huge impact on software vendors. But their clients are insisting, they don't want to run this software anymore. I don't want to run my PeopleSoft. I don't, that you look at how Salesforce has completely changed how we do and think about CRM, and how Workday is coming in and doing that with workforce management. Now imagine that with every other major COTS application that companies are using, and it's huge. It's a real sea change in the how applications consume, how companies are consuming applications, as well as what software vendors are expected to deliver.
Well, it certainly sounds like we're in for a lot more excitement around cloud computing and what people are doing and how they're able to do it and how quickly they're able to do it. Mike, Casey, thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.